Hey there! In this video we are going to show you how to play Gods of Rome. A special thanks to Pythagoras Games for providing us this preview copy. All the rules are final, only the components may have minor differences when compared to a production copy. In Gods of Rome, each player is part of a tribe led by a different god, trying to gain the favor of all other gods so they can be the chosen tribe who restores Rome to all its glory. The game is played over an undefined number of turns, where the players are going to perform actions until 3 existing checkpoints are triggered. On your turn, you choose one of 3 possible options. Visit a god's temple to gain blessing tokens that will later allow you to boost your actions. Activate a card space, with or without a card, to perform any actions depicted, or score territories to gain favor points that will later be converted into victory points. When activating your card spaces, you can find 3 different basic actions. Growth allows you to add one of your meeples to a territory where you have a presence. Travel allows you to move your meeples from one territory to any adjacent territories. And Attack allows you to push away one enemy meeple to an adjacent territory. When providing blessing tokens, you can perform the enhanced version of those same actions. Growth allows you to build one of your wooden temples and choose a new action card. Travel allows you to gather your meeples from anywhere on the map into the same territory. And Attack allows you to move one god standee to a territory and push away all enemies there. When scoring territories according to the gods you visited and the territories you control, in case you triggered a checkpoint, all players convert their favor points into victory points. As soon as all checkpoints are triggered and resolved, you sum up your victory points among the 3 checkpoints, and the player with the most victory points is the winner. Your first turn has an additional step than the remaining. First, you are going to choose one of the available factions and set up your player area in accordance with the god who leads it. Then you perform a normal turn, where you can choose one of 3 possible options. Visit a god's temple, activate a card space, or score territories. When choosing to visit a god's temple, you place an action disc into any temple of your choice, as long as you are not yet visiting that god. Then, you get one blessing token from that god's reserve to your personal supply. In addition, you take one meeple of the corresponding color from that god's reserve and place it into any of the 3 territories with the same color as that meeple. The last thing you need to consider is that if a god is not in their temple when you visit it, you first need to return the corresponding standee from the map back to the temple. When you choose to activate a card space, you place one of your action discs on top of any space of your player board, as long as you have not yet placed a disc on that space. Spaces can be with or without a card. The only difference is that spaces without cards only have one action to activate, while spaces with cards have 2 actions to activate at once. You can find 3 different actions: Growth, Travel, and Attack, which we will be describing shortly. For each action you activate, you can provide a different blessing token from your personal supply to enhance its effect. Before describing the actions, there are 2 important concepts to consider. To have a presence in a territory, you need to own at least one meeple or one wooden temple of your color in that territory. To have control of a territory, you need to own the majority of items in that territory, counting the meeples and any temple of your color. To activate a growth action, take one meeple of your color from the corresponding god's reserve and add it to any territory where you already have a presence. You can enhance a growth action by providing a blessing token of the color of the territory where you want to perform that action. Then, instead of adding one of your meeples to a territory, you can build one of your temples in a territory where you have a presence, as long as that territory do not have any other temple. In addition, you can select a new action card from the display to improve your player board. To activate a travel action, select one territory where you already have a presence and move as many of your meeples as you like to any adjacent territories. You can enhance a travel action by providing a blessing token of the color of the territory where you want to perform that action. Then, instead of moving your meeples from a territory, you can gather as many of your meeples as you like from anywhere on the map into the same territory. This is the only action that does not require you to have a presence into the desired territory. To activate an attack action, select one territory where you already have a presence and push away one enemy meeple to an adjacent territory. You can enhance an attack action by providing a blessing token of the color of the territory where you want to perform that action. Then, instead of pushing away one enemy meeple, you can place the corresponding god standee into a territory where you already have a presence to push away all enemy meeples to adjacent territories. You should note that you can never perform any growth, travel, or attack action in a territory with a god standee. When you choose to score territories, first take a look at your player board to validate how many of your action spaces you activated. If you have 0 discs on your player board, you have to pay 2 favor points to score territories. If you have 1 disc on your player board, you have to pay 1 favor point to score territories. Otherwise, there is no cost in favor points. After paying the applicable cost, return any action discs on your player board back to your personal supply and return any used blessing tokens to the corresponding god's reserves. Then you are going to score all territories from the same color of the gods you are currently visiting, as long as you control them and they are not from the same color as your faction. For each of those territories, gain 1 point for having control of that territory, gain any favor points provided by any objective cards you fulfilled, gain or lose 1 favor point according to the harvest token in that territory, if any, and flip it to its reverse side. After scoring all applicable territories, return any of your action discs in the God's Temples back to your personal supply. After a turn where you score territories, you always validate if you triggered any checkpoint. The first checkpoint is triggered when you score the first 5 or more favor points. The second checkpoint is triggered when you score 8 or more favor points since the previous checkpoint. The third checkpoint is triggered when you score 11 or more favor points since the previous checkpoint, or only 8 favor points in a 4-player game. When you trigger the first or second checkpoints, you claim the highest valued space on the corresponding victory point track. Then, all other players claim their space on that victory point track, keeping the relative order. In addition, all other players move forward their disc on the favored track into the space that allows that checkpoint to be triggered. Finally, reveal a new objective card that will join the already revealed ones available to all players. When you trigger the third checkpoint, all other players perform a free action to score territories before claiming the corresponding places on the third victory point track. The end of the game is triggered as soon as the third checkpoint is triggered. After resolving that checkpoint, the players calculate their final scoring by adding up their 3 partial victory points gained throughout the 3 checkpoints. Then, the player with the most victory points is the winner. And that is all you need to know to play Gods of Rome. On the rulebook, you can also find 2 advanced variants and the rules for the solo mode. If you enjoyed learning this game with us, don't forget your thumbs up and please consider subscribing. Until then, stay connected and be safe. See you soon!